I wanna be with Rita, no. I wanna be with Rita. Can you tell me if this girl I know? Okay, what is up, guys? Welcome to another video. I hope you guys are all doing good. We got a special video for you guys. Check it out. You can see that there. I got the special shirt on today. So in this video, we're gonna break down some South Africans which wanna have, I guess, their own city, white South Africans, that is. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight into today's video, and do not forget to like, comment and share because it helps us out in the algorithm. Let's get straight to it.
So like imagine like a black community in Europe or in Netherlands, and they say like we want to create Orania like community in France or in Germany. How would you see that?
Well, I've been in Brussels, and I've seen that there are certain neighborhoods which are very specifically Muslim neighborhoods. I've seen it with my own eyes. So is that wrong? That they don't even allow the police in. There's no-go zones for the police. I've seen it.
I have to say, to that specific point, it has to do with segregated communities, but that is in the ghetto. You can't compare the ghetto with what they have done in South Africa, because they literally went to South Africa, killed a lot of people, took the land, and now they are super wealthy compared to the local people. If it was vice versa, that the whites were living in, let's say, ghettos, then I would understand his argument, but it's not valid.
Very long ago, Africa was only black and Europe was only white, and Russia and so on and so on. And now there's white people in South Africa which doesn't belong in. That's the preposition of that question. And that is a bogus question. Afrikaners has been in South Africa for longer than the United States existed. We have a right to be here, and no one will tell me that because I have a white skin, I'm not welcome in Africa. That is absolute nonsense. To even presume such a thing would to say that, you know, you can just turn that around and say, well, okay, black people must leave Europe or America. I think we're really past that kind of...
We have passed it, but I think it's a good idea to have the conversation where we do actually maybe propose that, where, say, some Americans can migrate back to Africa.
Communities are natural things. If you force it on a government level, you get forced integration or forced segregation. Orania isn't busy with either of those things. We have a right to be in Africa, and it's really the kind of question that's been so cliched over the years, to presuppose that white people doesn't belong in Africa, doesn't have a part here culturally, historically, that they haven't evolved in terms of the name of our people, Afrikaners, our language, Afrikaans, and more, we are part of this continent. To presuppose that we are not supposed to be in an African country is to play into the flames, or to put petrol on the flames of inflammatory politicians like Julius Malema, who is suggesting, you know, large-scale violence and pushing white people out, and I will not be complicit in.
But what did the white people do in order to get the land? That is the conversation that we're not having, because let's look at what they did, what they migrated from Spain, Europe, Germany. They came, they colonized Namibia, they colonized South Africa, right? And now they own majority of the land. So what are we as Africans supposed to do, right? Where can we be Africans? Where can we build our Mecca? Right? We don't really own Africa. The same thing with Congo right now. Everyone is talking about Palestine, free Palestine, free Palestine. Shit has been happening in Congo for I don't know how many years, right? And no one is talking about that. The cobalt which is getting robbed from the Congo, the gold, the uranium. No one is really having that conversation. But when it comes to Palestine, because it's popular on social media, yeah, let's free Palestine. Why not just make it fair? If we're freeing Palestine, we should free the Congo as well? How come it's okay for white people to come to Africa, rob, and take our land, but it's not okay for us to defend ourselves and say, no, actually, this is unfair. This is not correct. Let's correct history. There's nothing wrong with correcting history. These are people which are, they know that they're ahead. So now they're trying to come with this peaceful message just because they don't want the Africans to revolt against them.
Nonsense.
White people understand my message very well because I say it in English. They are just trying to be sensitive unnecessarily. No EFF has ever attacked any white person. Our position is very clear that those who are oppressed economically must be liberated to be equal to white people. I never said in my articulation, let's drive white people to the sea. I've always said, let there be equality. And white people who are racist and suffer from white supremacy are the ones who are refusing the equality because they don't see themselves sharing a dinner table with monkeys. That's how they view us.
On 13th April 1991, Orania was officially opened as an Afrikaner town with the purpose of being a homeland for Afrikaners. It was an entirely white town, littered with old apartheid flags and monuments to the architects of segregation.
First of all, the whites didn't have a conversation about this. They just came to Africa and took it. I do not understand why we're still having this conversation. Should we? Shouldn't we? Should we take back our land? Shouldn't we? Why don't we just take it back? I don't understand. Let's just take it back. Because it's unfair. That's just how it is. What is ours is ours. There's nothing wrong with saying that it's not, at least make it fair. I would understand if they say, okay, we'll give you guys half of the land back. We'll split it in half, half is yours, and you guys take care of it. If we have that conversation, or if they at least come with that proposition, then we can talk. Then we can say, okay, pull back all of this rhetoric that you're doing. Am I off? Maybe I'm off. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, because the way that I view it is maybe totally different from the way other people view it. Am I wrong by saying that it's our country, that it's our land, that these foreigners which came there weren't supposed to own 70% of our country? They're not even supposed to own it right now. They were supposed to give it back. But maybe I'm totally wrong, because yes, I understand it's the sins of our grandfathers, right? What they did should not really affect us, but it does. So my question is, how do we come to the same level playing field? What do we do? Leave it in the comment section.
For ourselves.
But Orania wasn't created in the 1950s or 70s or 80s. It was created in 1991, a year after Nelson Mandela's release from Robben Island, and 3 years before the country's first democratic election. So critics argue that it certainly was a reaction to the racist segregation system of apartheid coming to an end. The truth is, by the end of the 1980s, the game was up for the apartheid system, and the fear and likelihood of losing dominance and control had seeped into the psyche of many Afrikaners, with some believing that the fast approaching democrats that would bring black majority through posed an existential threat to their way of life.
Other people will not have the nationality, won't be members of the state. We're treated as foreigners as anywhere else in the world. Orania will stretch from this point on the map to the Atlantic coast in the west, and from the Orange River in the north to about the Graafrenet latitude, which will be approximately an area of, say, 400,000 square kilometers.
Orania.
I think it was about a month ago.
We hope that we can make a good future for our kids. We don't have to be crowded, we don't have to be pushed out of our own vicinities. We got their own culture, they got their own culture. Our culture doesn't agree with theirs.
See, the whites, they never respected us. They never did. And just watching this and they just have hatred for us. They do. And I mean, to say that is crazy. To think of that is crazy. To think that your oppressor now wants to create his own segregated community in your country.
Another issue that Orania's proponents gloss over is the fact that the town was not built on vacant land as their narrative claims. According to historian Edward Kavanagh, in 1991, just 3 years before the fall of apartheid, black and mixed-race families who had lived on land that had earlier been earmarked for a failed canal project were evicted from an area near the Orange River to pave way for Orania. Kavanagh described the evictions as violent and brutal. The families were pistol-whipped and had dogs set on them.
Listen, I understand if we're having a conversation about let's make Africa free, let's make it unified for everybody. That I understand, and I get that, and I'm behind that. Let's break down the walls, let's start over, and it's a unified Africa. But this is segregation all over again. They want to segregate themselves into these private communities and keep us out. That's what they want to do.
The whole question of apartheid is complex, and I do expect that from our point of view, from a white middle class to a black workers perspective, that would be very different. I think we could easily accept that the lack of recognition and reciprocity and participation, which was in the end the main sort of characteristic of apartheid, made it something that went down in history as something of a scandal. So we've got that on our record, we've got that on our bill, but we don't stop there. We say during all that time, we were not monsters, our fathers and mothers were not monsters. They were people trying to deal with the challenges of their time in ways in which we could learn much if we go beyond the obvious. Once we have established South Africa not as a monolith, as a unitary state, but as a community of communities, that would be the ideal South Africa. The present crumbling up of South Africa could easily end up with a bunch of warlords taking control.
Iyambo.
No, thanks, Chair. So the presentation from Orania, is he saying that we must still be stuck on the semi-colonial apartheid exclusion of the black majority in Africa in particular? Is that what you're advocating for? You leave Orania to come here to Parliament to say that we must protect the inequalities in terms of land allocation. Is that what you're trying to say to us today here? That we must leave the currently skewed land ownership patterns where the white minority are in control and ownership of huge tracts of land when our people are staying like pilchards in many informal settlements, here in the Western Cape, in Gauteng and all over. When our people do not have access to just basic land which was taken to them through colonial dispossession and violence. Is that what you're saying we must do?
It doesn't matter how we came to be where we are. We are where we are, and we need to deal with that.
South African lawyer Thembeka Nkaitobi, who is also one of the lawyers representing South Africa in its ICJ case against Israel, says the existence of Orania violates South Africa's successive dismantling of racial segregation, arguing that its court
represents downright hostility to the idea of a single, united, non-racial country.
Okay, that's where we're going to end this video. I find this conversation very fascinating.